Hi, everybody. My name's Jennifer, and I want to welcome you to our live webinar this evening. Our topic is going to be, do you have a hobby or a business? And I'm a one-woman show here, so if you put something in the chat, it might not get it everywhere. Hi, Shannon. Good to see you. So I want to welcome you all here. Some of you I might know, some of you I may not know. My name is Jennifer Van Heeswick, and I'm a Pro 5 with LifeVantage. And my background is that leads me to present this content for you is that I have 31 years as a sales and marketing professional, and I have had the unique pleasure of working on 8 startups. I didn't intend or set out to work on a startup in general. I just kind of came to be that person who was hired to go and launch new businesses for companies because I had a unique capacity to be able to work with a new product and find the people who wanted to buy it in the right territories and the right demographic. And so I kind of went from, the startup was kind of appealing to me. So when I interviewed, I was always more attracted to businesses that were just launching. So 8 of these startups, 3 of them were my own, and 5 of them were for others. I've generated over $50 million in sales in my lifetime, and I did start working when I was 14, but this has been mostly in my adult career. And for those of you who are curious, I have coached and trained over 5,000 people in breakthrough thinking technologies and in healthy living and healthy lifestyle. Most recently, I launched a company here in Philadelphia, where I'm from, that is a raw juice cleanse company that I started in 2009, founder and creator of this. And in 6 years, it grew to be an enormous company. And I had over 10,000 clients, 10,000 customers. I didn't coach all of them, but they were my clients because they were purchasing products from me. And during that time, I got to see and learn a lot about what it really takes to launch powerfully and launch and build something when no one's really looking over your shoulder and you're not reporting to anybody. So how do you need to be when you're not reporting to someone? When this is your own business, when you get up in the morning, who's telling you what to do? And the numbers that you're supposed to do, and who's telling you to make phone calls? No one's really doing that. So who do you need to be in a business when you're the sole person on the hook for it? And we're going to be talking about that today as well. Okay, so the question I was posing is your home-based business a hobby or a business? And for some of you, you may have a home-based business. For others of you, it might be a network marketing company. But the question is, are you in the hobby zone or are you in the business zone? And I am going to assert during this webinar presentation with you that most people drift into the hobby zone and they don't even know that they're doing it. And so I'm going to teach you a few strategies to keep you in the business zone. So we're going to, let me just pause for a second here because I want to make sure that you have a clean piece of paper at the very least. Also, I hope that a pen or pencil and a calculator because we're going to do some work here in a second. And the other thing that I want you to do is I want you to listen to this presentation a particular way. And I want you to, I'm assuming that if you're on here, you have a desire or a commitment to maybe learn something new. And so I really invite you to listen to this presentation like it's new information to you. And sometimes we can listen with how do I say it? I already know that. Listening. I already know that. Well, I'm really going to invite you on this to maybe put that put that to the side, that kind of thinking, and just really like explore this newly. And I want you to do the exercises all the way through from start to finish. Even though you've already calculated these things, I want you to kind of just wipe the slate clean and start fresh here, because I think something might arise for you. A new possibility may arise in listening in this way. Okay. So, and we're going to be together for about, I said an hour and 15 minutes. And so it would be about 8:15. But I do want to leave opportunity for some question and answer if anybody does get something, if you're seeing something. I want to leave it open that if you wanted to ask me a question that you could. I have the chat function open. So I kind of do want this to be interactive, but we probably won't need to get into that for a little bit now. Okay. So the first question I want to put out to you is I want you to think for yourself. I want you to think about when you started your business and you were like, I think I can do this. I think I'm going to do this kind of business, X business. I want you to think about what you thought that it took in that very beginning stage. What did you think that it would take to be successful? What are the qualities? And I just want you to jot a couple things down on your paper. I just want you to kind of ponder in this and just sit in the thought about what was there when you decided to start this business. Some of the things that I would think when I was looking at a business was, what kind of time will it take? Or, do I know all the information well enough? Am I going to be able to talk about this? Do I believe in what I'm saying? Other things to be successful were maybe I needed to go to training, or maybe I needed to go places. But it really came down to was, for me, when I looked at all the different things that I thought of, it came down to two really core areas. And that was what people think it takes to be successful, is that it takes time, legitimate time in your calendar, hours, minutes, days, whatever that is, that it takes time. And people think it takes hard work. The hard work might be, I've got to figure out a business plan. I've got to figure out, who am I? What's my why? I've got to make the phone calls. I need to know what I'm saying, so I've got to study. All that kind of stuff. So in two columns, time and hard work equals success. And I'm going to say it's against a background of a positive mindset. We all think that we need to be positive, and we need to be in our best place, and we need to be really high thinking, and you couldn't pick up the phone unless you were in the Zen mode and you were really thinking great things about, your product or your service. And so I'm going to challenge that here now, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a different perspective on this, okay? Because I actually don't even think you need to have, I don't think it takes a certain amount of time, and I don't think it takes hard work to be successful. And I really don't think it takes a positive attitude, because I've been really cranky and angry and closed business. So I think that this can be a fallacy of how we look at business, is that it's going to be hard, it's going to take time, and you've got to have a positive mindset. So what I really say it takes is that it takes a clear plan, and it takes doing what you said you'd do, when you said you do it, the integrity of that, to have success. But you have to have that referenced against the background of a no matter what attitude. Okay? So what I want to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit about it, what that means, integrity, how I would define it in this startup launching business phase. And then I'm going to go into what it is to have a clear plan. And we're going to actually do a plan together. I'm going to write it down. And then I'm going to show you in the second half of this presentation how integrity and a no matter what attitude can have you get out of a slump, get out of being stuck, or help you relaunch or even launch your business with velocity. So the law of integrity, and I had the pleasure of taking a course with Michael Jensen, and the law of integrity has a lot of different layers to it. And he wrote a paper called Integrity Without It, Nothing Works. And it's, you could Google that. I'll post it in the event page when we're finished, if you want to read the paper. I mean, he goes into a lot of different factors about what it is to work with integrity. And he really uses integrity not as a moral conversation, but he uses it as a performance conversation, in that without integrity, your performance declines and diminishes dramatically. So in this paper, he has 11 factors of the veil of invisibility. So it's kind of like this thing that hides this law or this factor from most people's view while they're performing. And it conceals the source of the actual costs of out integrity behavior. And we're going to focus just on 2 of those right now in this law. And we're going to talk about integrity is a virtue. And for most people and their organizations, they speak about integrity as a virtue rather than as a necessary condition of performance. And that also not seeing that who you are as a person of integrity is that you are a person of your word, in that when you make declarations to yourself, to others, you are that declaration, fulfilled or not fulfilled. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. So right now we're going to get into creating a working plan. Okay. And this is pretty much when I would go out and launch a new company. Sure, I'd have a plan. I'd have, where I would go and what I would do and things like that. But really the one thing of being a sales and marketing person, the one thing that I was more so than anything else that I did, I was required to do, was to know what I was going to do in a given day and what my minimum was going to do to achieve the result. So, and that was something, maybe it was imposed on me, maybe it was something I declared myself. And I'll give you an example. So when I started my juice cleanse company, I started with nothing. I started with $500 and a juicer, and I had to go find people to juice. But I would kind of play this game with myself. And I said the first week, if I had 10 people juice, that would be pretty good. That would be powerful. That would be a statement of that, that I had accomplished something. So I played a game with myself in the very beginning for about 3 or 4 months, and I would commit to 10 customers per week. And I'd have to have them done by Sunday night before I put my head on the pillow. And I would do that. I did that for about, 4 months. And I really played the game, like, even if it was like, if I had 9 and I still had like 2 or 3 hours to go before it was bedtime on Sunday, I would find that person. I would go like legitimately hunt that person down and maybe even offer them a discount or do whatever I needed to do. Because when I was working, I knew that it was more powerful to do what I said I would do than to just fall short by one person. And I'll tell you what happened in my business. Within a few months, I was starting to have 15 people a week, and then 20 people a week, and then 50. And within 2 years, I had 150 people a week doing a juice cleanse. So this mounts upon itself and creates a huge momentum and a huge breakthrough for you and your business. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, we're going to just focus on creating a plan. So on your sheet of paper, I want you to think about what your annual goal is, your gross revenue in a year. And I know in the kind of business that most of the people are in, it's kind of like, is it a gross revenue? Is it what my take home is? I think that you should create the gross revenue, the volume of business that you want coming into your business, because that's kind of all that really matters, is what are you generating? So if you put down a number, and I use the number at the event of, I just created 36,500, and you'll see why. It works out to be about $100 a day. And I want you to put down your number though. And I want you to put down, and I'm going to challenge you in saying that most people already know the number approximately that they want to be generating. People know if they want to be making another $1,000 a month. They know if they want to be making $10,000 more a month. You just know. So there isn't really too much thinking or looking to see what that number is for you. So I just want you to kind of be bold and put down the number that you really in your heart know is what you want to be making in your business. And once you get that number down, I want you to take that annual goal, or AG, and divide it by 12. Okay? And that AG will give you your monthly goal. Okay? So on the monthly goal, this is what you're going to be focused on from month to month. So, and a lot of the people that are on this call, they work in 30-day cycles. The first is the top of the month. The 30th or 31st is the close. This is a powerful number. This is like really important to people to focus on. But I'm going to say that you need to go even deeper than this. You need to go one step further. And once you get that number, I want you to take that number, the MG or the monthly goal, and I want you to divide it by 30. I know some months have 31, some have 29. Stick with 30 and it'll work out. And that's how I got my $100 a day daily goal for this. If I were to have a business that was $36,000, $36,500, I would have a $100 a day daily goal of revenue, gross revenue, that I was accountable for, that I would have happen no matter what. So if you're confused or not sure how this is going, can you just put something in the chat function? Because I don't want to move forward if you've got something going on where you're not 100% on this, okay? If I don't see anything in the chat function, then I'm going to just trust that you're all tracking here with me, okay? So now that we have the daily goal, and I put in here, mine was 100. It could be 1,000, it could be 500, it could be whatever. But what I really want to think about is, okay, somebody's got a question. Hold on. Is this an immediate goal or an ultimate goal? Good question. I think that you should get the annual goal and backtrack it out. And you could, if your long-term goal is a little daunting for you, start with one that's realistic 12 months out. And so start with one. So if it's $100,000 is your ultimate 12-month goal, and you feel good in your 90 days of starting at 50,000, doing half of that and then ramping up to it, you can do that. Okay. So, you kind of have to bring a little bit of like some forethinking and foreshadowing here. If you want to be at $1 million a year goal and you're only making, $1,000 a month, that might be a little bit daunting. So you can break it out into, one possible thing you could do is break it down into thirds and chunk it out through the year. Okay. So does that make sense? Just post something in the chat if that makes sense. So you could start it if it was $1,000 a day and you wanted to start at 250 and then ramp up to it. There are some other factors, some people on here in network marketing, there are some other factors that can play a role in this, but very scary. Okay. no need to be scared, okay? Maybe you need to just back down your number a little bit, because you'll see what we're going to do here on a daily basis is we're going to start to get into a situation where you're going to want to do what you said you do each day. And you'll ultimately get to your goal by doing what you said you do each day, okay? So for Shannon and Leslie, just back it down a little bit. Maybe take a third of that for the next 3 to 6 months, and then you'll see how it will increase over 12 months, okay? You can reproject after 3 to 6 months. Does that sound okay? All right, so everybody said yes, they're backing it down. Okay, good. So now that you have an approximate goal, right? Okay, so I picked $100 a day because it divided nicely, and I can calculate some things into this. How are you going to achieve that goal? How are you going to get to the $100? Well, you've got to, like, I put down calls, but when I coach people, I really call these touches, because we have a lot of different ways that we communicate with people now, far more than just the old traditional phone call. It used to be door-to-door salespeople, then you had phone calling. Now you've got social media, and you've got a whole world of opportunity of how you communicate with people. So I put down 5 to 10 calls, but it's really touches, like really just reaching out and being in communication. So I'm going to say that for every one sale that you want to make, you've got to really talk to or engage with about 10 people. And you'll see why in a little bit when I talk about the operating states and how this works. But so let's just say that you're out there and you're shooting somebody a message, or you pick up the phone and you still like making phone calls. So you call a couple people and you're like, listen, I started and launched a business. I'm pretty turned on. Would you be interested in talking with me about what I'm bringing here to the Philadelphia area? That would be considered a touch or a call, okay? Maybe you shoot somebody a message on Facebook. You see that they are needing or wanting something in a health arena. So you put a message out to them. I think I have something that might be interesting to you. That's another touch. You want to start to get into that. The number of contacts and touches that you make is in direct correlation to the number of sales that are coming in. Okay. So I'm going to suggest for every $100 that you do, approximately, or sale, some people could have a sale be $200. Some people it's $150. Some people can sell in as $500. That will fluctuate, but you just want to get that. To close a piece of business, you're going to have to make 5 to 10 calls, okay? Or maybe 2. It's kind of a sliding scale, but using these numbers, it's pretty simple. Then you're going to have to do how many presentations. And a presentation really looks like sharing with somebody start to finish, like you're really engaging with them in a conversation about what they want, what are their needs, what is important to them, whether it's for a sale, a product sale, or maybe even have a business partner. You want to be having a full-on presentation with somebody, and not only in questioning them about what their needs are and wants are, but what are yours? Like, what are your expectations, and what are you doing, and what are you promoting? So I'd say you have 1 to 2 presentations to get to that sale, okay? And then how many orders each day would you have to do to get to $100? I say 1 to 2. I mean, it depends. It depends, right? In the kind of business that we're in, it really depends. But 1 to 2 orders a day. So here's basically how it works. And you'll see why the 10 for one sale in a little bit, okay? You have X calls or presentations per day. You have Y sales per day, plus a no matter what attitude. That will equal your daily goal, your monthly goal, and ultimately your annual goal. So 10 calls a day, 1 to 2 presentations per day equals $100 to $200 in sales per day. And a no matter what attitude equals your annual goal. I'm going to tell you what happens when you do this, okay? When you include the no matter what attitude, I'm going to say that's the secret sauce. And why it's the secret sauce is, if I were to tell you that you were going to get $1,000,000 for selling that $100 in business, would you get that done? I would. I'd probably be on the first phone call at 5 minutes in that morning to make sure I didn't miss it, and make sure I called somebody up and really like got engaged and was like, and made it happen. Shannon says, I'm not backing down. I would need 20 calls a day at least. Yikes. It's not. So here's the thing. I think, so I've come from multiple different kinds of work environments. Okay. And I think the reason I put this presentation together is because I come from a traditional sales and marketing background where I have a forecast, I have a sales funnel, a forecast, and I've got to produce. You have to produce. And in my industries, I had to produce to the tune of $1 million to $2 million annually in some of my cases. So there was really no time to be dicking around with conversations. And one of the reasons I put this presentation together, because I was seeing on a recent coaching call with my mentor, I was really seeing how I was not including the training that I've had for 30 years in my current business. And I had a very different attitude in the way that I heard the information given to me was that how do I want to put it? You want to have a certain amount of presentations in a month. And I'll tell you why I don't think that style works and the strategy works, particularly for me. Maybe it works for other people, but I started to lose sight of my, the way that I worked, which was daily accountabilities, because I'm a busy mom. I have a partner, I have a kid, I have responsibilities. I have another business that I run. I have other clients. And what I was finding was a lot of stuff started drifting and getting out of the space, and that no matter what attitude was really being put on other things in my life. So I would justify it. If I had to tell the truth, I'd justify it. I'd get to like 9:00 at night, and I'm like, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Or I would get to a certain time, or I'd be at a baseball game. I'm like, I can't really make a call here, it's very noisy. Like my attitude just started to get lax and lax about doing what I said I would do. I'd start the month and be like, I'm going to do this amount, and then by the third week I'd be apathetic. How am I going to get everything done in 7 days? And so when I was talking with my mentor, I realized that some of the things that I was actually training other clients in and how to work and how to build their business when they were stuck was this very thing right here. And so I incorporated this and adopted this about 2 to 3 weeks, beginning of this month. And listen, it takes something. And I'm going to show you why it doesn't happen just overnight, but when it does start to shift, it really starts to shift. Okay. So I think this is pretty clear. We'll make a note for any questions you have, because we'll come back and answer them. Okay. So if that formula is part of the plan, then this is the integrity of the fulfillment of the outcome. Okay. So the operating states is something I learned at a company that I worked for, which is a transformational company that I worked for, but I also produced results there. And we used to work on a daily numbers, daily outcomes, matched up against, different things we were doing. We would be making phone calls, we'd have events, we'd do different things, but there would be certain outcomes that we do. And if we didn't do them, we would have to deal with how we were working to produce that result. So the operating states is how you operate in your business at that time that's consistent with where you are in your business. So And I say to master this content that I'm about to tell you, this is the keys to the kingdom. Okay. This is what people who spend a lot of money learning from me right here. And so I'm pretty happy about sharing this with you. But I can't overstate the importance of this little bit that I'm about to share right now. So when you start working, you want to instead of doing a business plan, I think you need to get more honest about what you're going to do, when, and how you're going to do it. So now you've got a number the clear plan is your number, your daily number. But how are you going to work to get to that number? And so the operating states work off of similar to like an S curve, but it's a little bit different. It's more in your performance. It's more how you work. And this combines the integrity of how you work and the no matter what attitude. Okay. And you'll see where that comes in here. So you have the first state is formulation, where you are demonstrating to yourself and to other people that you're ready and able to produce the required result. So this might be, if you're working in a network marketing company, this might be that you communicated with the person who enrolled you, that you're ready, that you're committed, that you're going to, set aside a certain amount of time. You're going to make this a priority. You are, you put everybody's phone numbers in your phone. You know how to get on the website. You have demonstrated that you've done the training. This is all in a state of formulation. This could take 15 minutes for somebody, by the way. This does not have to take days or weeks. But it's just that you're demonstrating to yourself and others that you're ready. The second phase is that you start working concentratedly and that you start demonstrating to yourself and others that you can be counted on to produce the required result. So it might be that, let's say you're relaunching and you've got to go back and start, working again, working on making phone calls, and that you can be counted on to do this kind of work, that you can be counted on to get a customer. You might need to go back and formulate some part of that. The next phase is called momentum, and that demonstrates that you can leverage the points and multiply your results. The next one is stability, and that shows that you know what to do. I feel like I want Shannon wants to relaunch. She just left me a mess. I think I'm relaunching, Sharon. I get it. I've been doing this 5 years, and you know what? Somewhere in the phase of this, I am not producing reliable results. And so it's okay. It's okay if you go back and relaunch. The fact is that you don't give up. So the next piece of this is working in stability. That shows that you know what to do to produce the results and can be counted on for stable production. Then you have breakthrough, that you can produce and expand results in a sourceful structure. You have mastery, which you can train others to recreate your results and go beyond. And then two other interesting ones, emergency and danger, and I'll talk about those in a second. What I'm going to focus on for the purpose of this with this webinar, is that I'm going to talk about formulation, concentration, and momentum, and then working in an emergency and a danger, okay? So like we said, formulation, you announce the project, what it is, by when, and who is involved. Everybody declares themselves and what their accountabilities are. So for the purposes of this, maybe you're coming into a network marketing company and your person who enrolls you says, I have 2 other people and the 3 of us are going to be your accountability partners. Maybe you say, this is what I can be this is what I'm accountable for. You announce your project. I'm going to be a Pro 3. I'm going to do it by this time, by when, and I'm going to enroll 3 new business partners. You establish your lines of communication, you put in ground rules, and then you produce. Be in action and move. There's no thinking in this. It's just the what so. No feelings, no thoughts, no opinions, or good ideas. You just put everything in place, and then you move into concentration. So concentration is where most people in this company should be working at some level. And we cycle through all of these at different times, but I think some people get one distributor and then they go hang out in momentum. And I'll show you why that could be a really deadly place to be. So in concentration, you have a high input, low output phase. It's really, that's wording's a little bit backwards. It's a high output, low input phase. So you're making a lot of calls out and you're maybe getting one outcome back. 10 phone calls out, one back. 10 phone calls out, one appointment. You're doing a lot more work out. This is a phase where they call the fish or cut bait. You're not looking for any spectators or commentators. You are literally overcoming inertia during this. It's intense focus and concentration. Box yourself in. You know, for some people, they launch and they take a few days and clear their calendars, and that's all they do. For some people, that's powerful. For other people that work a full-time job, if you set the hour aside a day and say, I will work an hour a day, you must work the hour a day. You can't say you're going to work an hour a day, then at the end of the week say, I'll work 5 hours on Saturday. That's not how the law of integrity works. So whatever your plan is, whatever your daily plan is, you want to be able to fulfill on it. And you want to have the time set up so that you can fulfill on that. So some other key points from this are to keep your word no matter what. You want to economize and eliminate unnecessary conversations, actions, and distractions. So this isn't a time to call up somebody and start to figure out whether or not you're doing it right. You just do your calls. You don't have reasons, discussions, or explanations. You just grind out the result. It's why people go up to momentum is because concentration is really uncomfortable. That whole process of working concentratedly is uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable, but because people talk to themselves about if they're doing it right or not doing it right and all that chatter, it makes it seem uncomfortable. Some other things are no room for recreational complaining and tantrums. You say, this is what I said I'd do, and this is what I did. Maybe you have an accountability partner concentration, and you make a declaration. I'm making 10 calls today. Call that person at the end of the day. I made 10 calls, and this is the outcome. Just clean, simple explanations. And I think this is really important. You want to take care of yourself in concentration. You want to eat properly, exercise, sleep, stay connected with family, friends, and interests. When you're not doing this, you want to stay in a positive, higher place so that when you're doing this work, it doesn't sap you of your energy. Okay? Any questions about concentration before I go on to momentum? All right. Well, if it comes through, we'll save it to go back to. Okay, momentum. So now you've been working concentratedly for a while. Let's say you're on a 90-day push, 30, 60, 90-day pushes. They're always great ways to work concentratedly. Box yourself in 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night. I'm blocking this out. Oh, let me go back and say one more thing about concentration, guys. Sorry about this. I don't want to step over this thing, okay? So remember I said that it's integrity plus a clear plan with a no matter what attitude. So here's what happens when you work concentratedly. Because you don't have to work concentratedly forever. The law of integrity, in doing what you said you do, your performance, it's like a It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. And then when you get to the peak, the boulder rolls down the other side of the hill rapidly. You're literally pushing into a space where there's no agreement. So you're pushing for an outcome. Let's say you're pushing for 10 new distributors in a month, okay? You got to work a certain way to have that outcome, and you do it, and you do it every day. Here's what happens when you have a no matter what attitude. It kicks into momentum. And one day, after you've been working concentratedly for a time, you're sitting there and you make one phone call and you got somebody on the other end like, man, I've been waiting for something like this. I'm excited. I think I might have 4 other people who might want to do this with me. And you're like, oh my God, where'd that come from? That's crazy. Or you go into your back office and you shared with somebody and they just shared with 10 people and they all bought products. And it's like 1 out, 10 in. So you can only go into momentum if you've been working concentratedly. You can't, like when one person decides to become a distributor, that does not equal momentum. That does not mean that all of that's going to happen. The only way momentum happens is if you've been working concentratedly, the orders are coming in regularly, and you're doing what you said you'd do, and then it happens automatically. It's not like one person calling in for a product creates momentum. And this is, I think, a sticky place that we get to in this type of business is we think that that's momentum. We think we're in a big state of like, wow, we're rolling. No. I mean, if you had 10 people call in and sign up after working for 3 months, that might be some momentum. But most of the time, from what I can see, I've been in momentum very few times since I started this 5 years ago, because I don't work this business concentratedly. I've worked in spots and patches and thinking that I was working towards momentum. So here's a couple things. Momentum is a high output phase, 1 out and 10 in. High activity, expand participation and look for leverage points. You might find somebody who's grown by, they have 20, 30 new people come into their business in a month after working concentratedly. That would be momentum without doing a whole lot. So when you're in this state, you want to unleash your energy, swing out, take risks, and be spontaneous. You want to expand participation. People are enrolled in participating and enrolled in enrolling others. There's very high activity. You produce and produce, then you produce some more. And you consciously create more momentum by leveraging points and focus on the multiplying points and multiplying yourself. In our business, this might look like training people who are able to train others. You want to communicate to inspire and have them get results from others through inspiration and acknowledgement. And you want to ask yourself, what will make the difference here? Okay. And I love this one. Don't drop out. Compassion. That's a really good one, because you can get moving so fast that you forget about the people that are around you when you're in momentum. All right. And then we have, so those are the 3 that I wanted to focus on. But we have these 2 other areas called danger and emergency. Okay. So what happens when you don't do what you said you'd do? Like you're going and you're hustling, and then there's a day that like you didn't do what you said you'd do. Well, there's a way to clean that up. Okay. So if my $100 a day example, and I'm going to close business each day, and I don't do what I said I was going to do, and I'm in working concentratedly, and I miss 1, 2, or 3 days, I go back to boxing myself in. And I go back to maybe get clear on my formulation and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like what's missing. You might find that you had a disempowering conversation and you decided to start thinking that I don't know if I'm cut out for this. because you're not supposed to really be thinking when you're in concentration. So if you're thinking with disempowering conversations, like your belief is low, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I just missed a whole day. You want to go get yourself clear and back into that space where you're like working concentratedly, inspired, and inspiring others. So when you get into a danger and emergency, danger is when you miss what you said you'd do one day. You just go back and box yourself in until you produce the result again and make up for the day that you missed. And in emergency, it's when you miss what you said you'd do for 3 days, you go back and you box yourself into like 2 to 3 hour promises and really evaluate whether your headspace is where it needs to be, get yourself clear, get yourself inspired, and then get back in action until you flip it back around and make up the difference. Okay. So integrity is so this is Michael Jensen again, the professor emeritus at Harvard Business School, who wrote Integrity Without It, Nothing Works. And his kind of statement about integrity is that if you violate the law of integrity, the opportunity set, and I'm going to call that the outcome, the daily outcome or monthly outcome that you declared, for your performance will shrink, and therefore your actual performance is likely to suffer. And this is around keeping your word in and around your performance. So on this wrap up, I just wanted to point to the top takeaways. One is to formulate your business and to really make some bold declarations on what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, get an accountability partner, and then have a no matter what attitude in that daily accountability. The other thing is to work concentratedly until you reach your first goal, okay? So if your goal is to make $100 that first day, that you work that day until you fulfill on that goal. And I want to go back to this one thing on working concentratedly, because when I talked about the no matter what attitude, and if you had $1 million, somebody was going to give you $1 million, this is where the power of this method comes into place, because you must think, speak, and act differently than you've been thinking, acting, and speaking prior. So I use the $1 million analogy because if you had somebody was going to give you $1 million to close $100 worth of business in the day, you would get that done because you would be speaking and being different than you are when there's not that, I don't want to say pressure, when there's not that outcome. Okay. So even if it was, you can even see when there's incentives and there's trips, you get on the phone with a different posture. You get into conversations. Maybe you don't waste so much time with people. You get more interested in where they're at and where they aren't. You eliminate chit chat. You eliminate a lot of unnecessary doingness. And that's why I think this gets out of the hobby zone and into the business zone is, if you're going to have a hobby, you might call up your girlfriend and chat with them about, I don't know, if you're scrapbooking or if you're knitting, what kind of yarn to use or things like that. But if you're in business and you're working concentratedly, you don't have time for that chit chat. You got to get on getting your $100 for the day, because that's the only thing that matters. And if I said to you that all that mattered was $100 a day for 30 days and you'd make $2,000, you just don't relate to it. People just don't relate to it like that. They kind of, I don't know, I have to relate to it to myself. I kind of had this more like when I first started, I remember I just worked for the first 6 weeks. All I had a promise to do was just talk to, I talked to 50 people. I did 50 presentations and I had 10 distributors enroll in the business. And honestly, I've worked hard and I've done a lot of stuff before, but I never really have worked again like that since then. I am now. I put that back in place since I talked to my mentor, but I was just get somebody on the phone, tell them what I'm up to, find out if they're interested in the product, find out if they're interested in the business, and then go to the next person. I wasn't sitting around talking. I just wanted to get them what they needed and wanted at the time. And if they weren't interested in that, that's okay. Maybe they knew somebody. I think that we spend a lot of time having unnecessary conversations in the fulfillment of our business. And that's why it looks like it's a lot of time to build our businesses, because it really doesn't take that much time to have 10 phone conversations. I could do that in like a half an hour and have really straight, clean conversations with people in 30 minutes. So the other thing, that's my number 2, working concentratedly. The other thing is track daily numbers. I can't even tell you that this is like the most important thing you could possibly do, because there's no reality on your actual number per day if you don't track your phone calls, your presentations, and the daily revenue that you're closing. And then if you miss one day of what you said you do, you go back to working concentratedly until you have momentum from the daily activities. These are my 4 takeaways. Is that the end? Okay. So I want to open up to some questioning. If you don't want me to keep recording, you know what, I'm going to keep recording because it might be of interest to people to hear the questions that people are asking. So does anybody have any questions? Any questions about the formula?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
It's Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
It's easier to talk instead of putting it. Hi. Instead of putting it in the chat. Actually, I have 2 questions. So you mentioned a business plan earlier. It sounded like you said that wasn't really important to put into place.
Ask the question again.
What you said earlier, a business plan, because I know people.
You don't need a business.
Because not only do I have
the
same business.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, you don't need a business plan for this business. You need to have like a clear understanding of why you're doing it, like a simple, clear understanding. Right. And then you have to have that daily plan, just a daily plan. And guys, I don't care if it's $20 a day. Like, this is your business. This isn't your uplines business. This isn't your sidelines business. It's not your downlines business. You get committed to, hey, if you want to sell a cleanse a day, that's on you. I mean, you're going to get so far and you're going to do so much, but if that's what you're passionate about and that's your business, I mean, LifeVantage in this context, LifeVantage offers an incredible opportunity with multiple product lines. So however you get there is up to you. I just think, does that answer your question, Shannon?
It does. Uh-huh.
What's your other question?
Oh God. I hope I make sense with this one. So, we're in the same network marketing business. Mm-hmm. And so I guess my question is, so I have my daily goal. And that's fine, but I guess we're not getting paid that exact daily goal because we have a comp plan. So does that change then how we should address to come up with?
You have revenue coming in no matter what, okay? And there will be benefits to revenue coming in from a downline. Mm-hmm. But if you're between Pro 1 and Pro 4, mm-hmm. you need to work this way. You need to have a daily goal until your team is actually starting to generate. So I just think that you need to work concentratedly until you're above a Pro 4 and you have maybe 4 or 5 leaders that are doing something in your business. You need to be responsible and accountable for a daily number.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And then reassess everything later, I guess.
Yep. I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I've always been stuck on that since I started, coming up with that breakdown like you walked us through.
Well, that's why I created this, because this is a business and it's pretty simple. You know, a business is a business. It has revenue coming in. And even if you have a downline, you still have revenue coming in. You're still accountable for the fulfillment of your business, no matter how many people you have in there. So to get distracted by somebody else actually being responsible for the business diminishes your power in the business. Does that make sense?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, and I'm not thinking about the downline. I'm thinking about solely me, like what I would need to do to hit my target number for the year.
Well, just if you had if you had $100 goal a day, it's just going to give you that, and you did that 365 days of the year, that would be an additional $36,500 in revenue, regardless of whoever did anything else in your business. Would that move your business forward?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why there's just, sometimes we create mischief for ourselves in network marketing, because there's this illusion that there's somebody else out there doing something. You must have the buck stops with me attitude, that this is 100% me. No matter what, I am getting this done. Hey, great if somebody in your downline does the $100 a day too, and now you have two people that are producing $36,000, $500 a year, right? So I'm saying that, this is, Shannon, this is a lot of what I had to deal with for myself. And this kind of never done this kind of market business, kind of business before. And I really saw where I was not treating this like a business. It was, and it wasn't necessarily that it was a hobby, but I was not treating this like a business, like the business profession that I come from for 30 years. Right? So I'm going to answer, you can ask another question a little bit. I'm going to answer Kimberly's question here. That's okay. You're welcome. So Kimberly asked, what do you do when you forgot to call people back when you said you would? Call them now. Daily plan equals mind blown. Okay. Don't forget to call people back. I mean, whatever existence structure that you need to put in place, Kimberly, do it, because that's another, to me, I mean, if you had a scheduled call and you forgot to call them back, you need to go back to your formulation stage and look at your existence structures. You need to look and see your tracking sheets. You need to look and see if you've got things in place, maybe an accountability partner. Maybe you are not setting the kind of quality time and you're multitasking like most of us moms do, which is, you're making lunch, you're on the phone with your, phone and elbow, whatever, your shoulders like up, and you're like doing laundry at the same time. Give yourself permission to have the dedicated time for yourself to do this business and make requests of people. That's what the formulation process is for. It's called, honey, guess what? You need to take the kids for an hour, or I need quiet time, or instead of, going to do something that you normally do for somebody else, go take that time for yourself. Kim, does that help? Does that answer your question? Okay, good. She said yes, that helps. Thanks. So, anybody else? You can jump off the mute and ask a question if you want. You don't have to put it in the chat function if you don't want to. I'm going to answer a couple more questions here, and then we're going to jump off. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for being here and really acknowledge you for taking this webinar on and just being my partners in this. I think most of the people that are here have been with me now for a few years, and thank you for listening, and thank you for jumping on.
This was a huge help. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome.